Ready for Revolution. Greetings, everyone. Brother Eric Ture Muhammad here. Hope all is well with you and yours on this vainglorious day, as Mr. Finest the Boss would say. I want to welcome all of you as we're allowing people time to populate into the channel. Please share with everyone. We are on YouTube only for this segment. And we're going to talk about the quarantine life, and in particular, how we can mitigate, how we can get through it, and some of the things that have changed forever. There are some things that have changed forever with this pandemic, and we're going to discuss some of those findings, as well as talk about solutions to a lot of the institutions, daycares, private schools, spiritual centers, churches, things of the like, houses of worship, community centers, those things that have been staples in our community for eons. Now they are all subject to loss and subject to possible ruin or being non-existent any longer. How do you become relevant? How do you maintain relevance in an age that is absolutely changed? So I have the pleasure of being with Bishop Sutton today, Bishop Ernest Sutton, out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And we'll be hearing from him momentarily. Bishop, if you could unmute your mic. I don't know if you have video access, but if you're able to unmute your mic, it'd be helpful. And we're going to give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll be underway.
Brother Eric, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Ready for Revolution. How you doing, soldier?
I'm doing well, sir. I hope you and family are well.
Thank you so much. We are, Bishop. We are maintaining the best we can under the greatest of circumstances, believe it or not, because you know how they say when the door closes, a window opens, and you have silver linings in every cloud, and some of these linings are laced with gold, yet and still we're here. God saw fit to keep us here through all that is transpiring, and so grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir.
All right, family, we're going to get underway. Thank y'all so much. Hey, Sister Linda Kelly, good to see you. And we're going to keep it moving as people starting to join on to the stream. Okay, so let me close some screens so I can see us. All right, so family, I'm Brother Eric Ture Muhammad. I'm a wealth builder, wealth building coach. I'm a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, member of the Nation of Islam. Some of you know me from lineage, for I am a son of Kwame Ture, also known as Stokely Carmichael. And movement has always been a part of my life, always. I've always sought to do better, be better for everyone. And you never know where God is going to guide you, where he's going to direct you. You just do the best you can with what you have. And then if you pay attention to the signs that he provides in people, in nations, in nature, in circumstances, they sort of hone you in. They sort of glean you toward your eventuality, your mission, or your divine purpose. Everyone has divine purpose. There's no such thing as a bad experience or a bad situation, because it only lends to the opportunity that's ahead of us. So I'm grateful that in this great and dreadful day, in this hour of uncertainty, for many who are in a state of purgatory, I'm grateful that God has found favor on me to keep me around, to help to discover those things that have been unknown to many, so that we can go further and further our ability to preserve, adapt, and change in this dynamic. I want you to focus on the screen that you have there in front of you. 10 things the pandemic has changed for good. And when I say good, I'm not saying for the good, I'm talking about forever. All right. And this was an article that just came out today, as a matter of fact. Well, no, actually it came out a few days ago, from Brother Andy Markowitz for the AARP. He's a writer for the AARP, and he cited 10 things the pandemic has changed for good. And he opened up by saying that the coronavirus pandemic is a public health emergency and an economic crisis, unprecedented in the disruption of daily life. That makes it something else too, says Jeffrey Cole, a research professor at the University of Southern California. Without preparation or permission, we're participating in the greatest social science experiment of all time. The effects of lockdowns, layoffs, and massive public measures to contain COVID-19 will last long after any threat from the virus is gone, contends Mr. Cole, who directs the Center for the Digital Future at USC's Annenberg School of Communications. In the future, we'll talk about BC, he says, BC standing for before Corona and after. Now, in collaboration with the Interactive Advertising Bureau, a membership group of media, marketing, and tech companies, the center last month launched the Coronavirus Disruption Project, surveying a representative sample of 1,000 Americans about how they are living and coping with the rapid changes wrought by the pandemic. The results suggest that many of the ways we're adapting to life with the coronavirus, some digital, some physical, will reverberate long after a vaccine or treatment returns life to quote unquote normal. And then they cite in their report 10 things that the pandemic has changed for good. And I'm going to run through the 10 things really quick, but truth be told, there are other mitigating circumstances, things that are valuable to life, to humanity, that have been totally missed in this. So let's look at the 10 things that they speak of. What has changed here? Working from home, seeing your doctor, shopping for groceries, staying in touch, wearing face masks, going to movies, traveling by air, riding public transportation. Riding public transportation. Where am I? Protecting your privacy, washing your hands. Well, let's explore a couple of those things. Bishop, you're welcome to chime in anytime as I go through them.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. First, let's look at that working from home. They state in their report, the outbreak abruptly introduced tens of millions of workers, at least 50 years of age or older, introduced them to telecommuting and data. Okay, it suggests that a lot of them like it, according to the report, meaning that 42% of everyone that was surveyed said the experience has made them want to work from home more. Okay, so out of the 1,000 that they surveyed, the majority of them, 50 years age of older, have grown accustomed and appreciative of having to work from home. So when this first jumped off, all the customer service agencies, customer service departments inside of corporations, banks, hospitals, you name it, they were now forced to work from home because of the closed door orders. So they worked from home and they tried to help customers navigate through ordeals. And what they found is working from home isn't bad. It allows you to balance your time. And you can do things around the house that you would not have been able to have done previously because you were outside of the house working somewhere else, giving up all your time, selling the time for money. Okay, that's one aspect of it. It gave so much flexibility. The report says 42% of survey participants said the experience has made them want to work from home more. 61% of those who are teleworking said they are enjoying the relaxed attire and grooming standards, greater flexibility and lack of a commute, and 78% now said they are as effective or more so working from home. Wow. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Seeing your doctor. The survey says, this survey was conducted by the University of Michigan's National Poll on Health Aging, found that only 4% of people over 50 had seen a doctor virtually in the previous year. More than half did not know whether their doctor even offered video visits. Patients and practitioners alike were interested in telemedicine, says Preeti Malani, an infectious disease specialist at the university and the poll's director, but is no great, I can't read the rest there. Oh, no great rush, something at the speed of light, she says. Doctors and patients who previously might have considered telehealth only in limited circumstances, such as an illness while traveling or a routine post-op chat, are now seeing that a wider range of services can be provided virtually. Along with the cutting out hassles like parking and waiting room time, video visits makes it easier for family members to observe and participate, a big boon for caregivers. Okay, shopping for groceries. It's no surprise that the online purchase and home delivery of groceries have surged amid coronavirus lockdowns. A March 2020 survey of more than 1,500 consumers by investment firm RBC Capital Markets found that 55% had shopped for groceries online, compared with 36% in a similar poll in late 2018. The number doing so weekly nearly doubled, and downloads of apps for delivery services like Instacart, Walmart Grocery, and Peapod doubled, tripled, even quadrupled in just a month. RBC, which has taken consumers' posts on online grocery shopping regularly since 2015, dug deeper into whether the changes might be lasting. More than half of those who purchase groceries online said the COVID crisis made them more likely to keep doing so permanently. Staying in touch, Zoom happy hours, Facebook Live parties, and loved ones. One key finding of the Coronavirus Disruption Project is that while the pandemic has moved our social lives online, people report that their relationships with relatives, friends, and coworkers have not suffered. Wearing face masks, we know where we are on that. Masks aren't personal protective devices, they're social protective devices. Everybody knows someone who is immune compromised or has some of the COVID risk factors. And I think that leads to a sense of when you go outside, you might want to wear a mask, at least for enough of the population that when you're making the decision, you don't feel like a weirdo. That was given by Robert Kahn, a law professor at the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I did a post, Bishop, maybe about 6 weeks ago. I posted a picture of Michael Jackson in a visit to, I want to say it was Vegas, and he was wearing his mask, his face mask. He was always known for doing it. And the post basically read, yeah, you used to laugh at him and call him names. What do you think now? You know? And so Mr. Jackson was exposed to a world of epidemics, of infections. He traveled the world. His Heal the World project had him within 96 countries on an annual basis. And he went to war-torn countries. He was in Bosnia, Romania, Croatia, the former Yugoslavia, the Czech republics. He was there during their war-torn years. He was in the middle of mustard gas. He was in the middle of other poison gases that were used around the world. He went to Iran. He went to Libya. He went to places that, well, I'm not sure of Libya. I'm sorry. He went to places that compelled him to do as the citizens and residents were doing for their everyday protection. And where we were dismissing it as, well, he's just wearing it to hide the work he did cosmetically on his nose, it was much deeper than that. He was part of a broader world. And so now we see it in our face. Okay. They also talk about going to the movies. The theatrical movie business was already in a decades-long decline, and it had accelerated in recent years as a rise of streaming giants like Netflix and others had took over. But now they say that movie going is going away. It's something that will not survive this pandemic. And for any of you that are watching, go to Kafani Radio Facebook page, and you'll see the interview I did with our Black filmmaker, Brother Rick Mathis, who has head of the Blackbuster Digital Film Project and Contest. It's like a Cannes festival for Black film and artistry. And we did an interview this past Tuesday on The Gold is Gold there. And he gave a very interesting insight that supports what is being said here. Then they move on to traveling by air, right? I won't even read that. We already know that no one's doing that. But think about it. I've been seeing advertisements now from the airlines that I've been traveling on, Bishop, over the last few months. When I say last few months, really the last year and a half, traveling around teaching the wealth opportunity, sharing the wealth opportunity. Now those same airlines are coming back to me advertising $11 fares.
Oh man.
$11. If you travel between this time and that time, why? Because they need to cover their expenses because they're suffering such a hemorrhage of loss. Delta Airlines announced in Atlanta just a few weeks ago. Now, Delta Airlines is the largest private employer in the state of Georgia. 34,000 people or more are employed with Delta Airlines in the state of Georgia. But they lost in the quarter $534 million. In the first quarter of this year, the year hadn't even begun. They're already in the deep, deep red. It's so red that, it's like the sea of blood. And so they got a bailout into the billions of dollars from the government. However, they expect that the next quarter, the one they're in now, they're going to lose $600 million. And they're going to average this loss for the next 3 years.
Wow.
Public transportation. That's another system. Public transportation is an inevitable position of urging people not to use them unless absolutely necessary. That's an essentials issue there. Coming back from that will be difficult and will involve changes in how transit agencies operate, especially when it comes to convincing people to return to the close quarters of buses and subway cars. Then protecting your privacy. In the absence of a vaccine or contact tracing, the ability to track whom an affected person has encountered and possibly exposed using smartphone apps and Bluetooth technology figures prominently in strategies to contain the virus while easing social distancing. It is considered so important that arch rivals Apple and Google are working together to quickly develop and distribute contact tracing tools. Now, these tools are used in China, just that's a sidebar. And people talk about New World Order and that kind of thing, but it helped them to flatten the curve that everyone just routinely suggests you know. And then you have washing your hands. Thanks to the coronavirus, it reads, we all now know how to properly wash our hands and how long it takes to sing happy birthday twice. and we and we won't soon forget, judging by new data from the Bradley Corporation, a maker of fixtures and accessories for commercial washrooms that annually surveys Americans on their hand washing habits. Bradley's latest poll, conducted in early April to measure the coronavirus effect on hand hygiene, confirms we are washing our hands more often and for longer. 78% of respondents report lathering up at least 6 times a day, more than double the pre-pandemic rate. 77% follow the 20-second rule. Previously, most people wash for 5 to 15 seconds, and 88% say that they are likely to maintain these habits once the pandemic is over. I just wanted to share those tidbits from there. And I want to, Bishop, if you could just elaborate on maybe some of the thoughts you have there on that, but those things that we are missing that we can absolutely affect and save. And your particular experience with your edifice there in Elizabeth City and your congregants, it's a profound one, and it's one that's being utilized now as a tool, as a teaching and training tool amongst wealth builders to share this opportunity in other areas. So, Bishop, anywhere you want to chime in on that, we'd appreciate it. And welcome once again.
Can you hear me, Brother Eric?
Yes, sir.
Listen, first of all, let me say that I want to thank you for having have me to join this call this evening. I'm honored to the greatest extent just to be on this call with such a personality as yourself. First of all, I want to say to our listening audience out there, Brother Eric is a consummate professional in more than just one way. He's certainly a consummate professional in the universe of carrot bars and wealth builders across the world. And Brother Eric, I want to say to you that you were born for this moment. Your dad set you up a long time ago, even before you were in your mother's womb, for this moment. And I mean that sincerely. Uh, uh, Not only because you are the son of an icon and a son of a freedom fighter for the world, but your lineage, your dad's lineage, will be long known, particular as it relates to this pandemic that we're in today. Let me give you some reasons why I say that. First of all, uh, you are a professional in the world of carrot bars and wealth builders. And because of the changing dynamic of this time, because of the pressure that's being put on our people across the world for finances, the government now is sending people checks that certainly won't meet their needs. Individuals, it'll meet the needs of the larger companies much more than it will individuals. But you are a person that has found your niche in wealth builders and carrot bars, because we have a money system. We have a solution that will help individuals across the world uh, challenge the traditional money system and give them a real money system, which is real money gold. So I just want to thank you for being such an individual who uh, is willing to offer yourself to be a person or catalyst that can change the dynamic of our money system for our people across the world, and that's carrot bars. But let me say this. There's so many things that you just laid out, sir, that changes traditional norm to the new norm.
Mm.
And we are challenged in this moment to be able to harness and leverage the new norm. I'm going to talk specifically about the church in just a moment, but I want to lay a few other things out before I talk about the church. Yes, we're in a new normal, and we're being forced to adapt to this new normal. And quite honestly, we're struggling all over the world. Individuals are struggling all over the world to try to wrap their minds around how we navigate this new normal.
Yes, sir.
I want to send a shout out today to the Wealth Builders worldwide family indeed, and give them a thanks, particularly to our mentor, Mr. Ty Best and his wife, Valerie Best. For a long time ago, they started to prepare for this new financial normal by embracing real money gold and having over 100,000 people in Wealth Builders worldwide, for which I'm proud to be a part of, so that we can address appropriately this new norm.
Mm-hmm.
Send a shout out to Team Sutton and the person that brought me into Wealth Builders, Miss Kim Pong, and people like Miss Linda Kelly, and the others I could go on and talk about. Listen, we were born to be free. We were born to be free. But circumstances in our lineage, in particular as it relates to African Americans, prohibited us from being able to enjoy the freedoms that we were born to have. But thank God for new information, for hidden information as it relates to gold being money. Now we have the opportunity in Karatbars to leverage and promote and realize the freedom that we have via our economic mode of Karatbars International. Let me just talk about the change in dynamics of adapting to this new normal. Over the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've had several of our friends to pass away, some of them with the COVID-19, and then some of them not so. But I was looking at YouTube the other day. There's been a number of bishops in the Church of God in Christ who have passed in the last 30 days, to the
Wow.
point that Bishop Blake, the head of the Church of God in Christ, have locked down all churches worldwide until further notice from that office. This kind of thing ought to get our attention. Uh, and then I look at small businesses of people that I know about have not had an opportunity to realize any profit from their business for the last 6 weeks plus. So we are in a new normal, but we have a solution in Wealth Builders Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
The other piece is that traditionally we've been able to go and congregate when we had a loved one to pass. That's changed. Traditionally, we've been able to go to the hospital and see our loved ones when they're in a hospital. That's changed. I could go on, but you have already laid this out, Brother Eric, about the new normal that we're in. Let me just share back up and share. Back in 2018, Miss Kim Pong introduced me to Karatbars International. Many of you have heard me say, that have heard me talk, that I blew her off for 3 months. It was only when I came to her office in Newport News and met Mr. Ty Best, and I heard him eloquently break down the state of the world as it relates to our banking, traditional banking practices.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard Mr. Best break this thing down and shared that the bank was leveraging our money and we were just a pawn in the process, because the banks were buying real assets, property, and gold and silver, utilizing our money and giving us no interest on our money. Brother Eric, when I heard that sermon that Mr. Best gave, man, I was done, because I realized that my labor for 40 plus years have been leveraged by the bank, and I was trading my labor for paper.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then what's so incredible about that realization was that our church and their parishioners had been paying their tithes and offering to the church, and we were depositing that money in the bank, which I call the monster, every week. And they were doing the same thing to hard-earned money made by our parishioners and deposited in the banks, and they were leveraging our money against us.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I came to that realization, I was saddened and I was glad at the same time. Saddened because we had done this for so many years with essentially the same bank. It had changed hands over the years, but essentially the seed of it was the same bank. When I realized uh, how much blood, sweat, and tears and labor that our church had contributed to a system that was totally indifferent to us, I got busy and I contacted uh, our board of trustees and I shared uh, uh, the Carrot Bar's opportunity with them. And as always, when you share something new, there's always a certain amount of trepidation that comes with something that is new. Uh, and thank God, Mr. Best and his wife came to our church, and we had a conference call with our trustees. Stirs some skepticism, but the good news is that over a period of time, our trustees.
Are you there, sir?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. You
They
said over a
embraced
period
it.
of time.
There was a period of time when our board did not fully embrace the new message of Carrot Bars. But thank God we stayed with it, and they embraced this idea of being our own banker. And so now I can talk about that process at another time. But the process was that you had to teach people what they don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
people don't know what they don't know. And I nor our board had any inkling that one, gold was real money, and that two, we could become our own banker and leverage our own money. But we've done that, and our church now is a VIP in Carrot Bars, and we're saving gold every month. And now we're managing our money ourselves. So that's the good news. And I would implore every church leader in particular, take a real good look at Carrot Bars International, because there's no competition here. We partner with Sony, we partner with the Vatican, or they partner with us rather. We partner with MasterCard, and we partner with FedEx. These are credible institutions in our universe all over the world. So there is really no research that you really have to do. You just have to learn what we do. Brother Eric, we can have some other dialogue in this discussion, but I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Well, Bishop, you opened up a nice little interest here. Let me ask you, can you elaborate somewhat on the benefits of taking control and of the finances as an institution? Because what you described in a nutshell is that you prevailed on the board of the church to create an entity by which they can save in gold, and it in turn helps the community, help the congregants save, as well as create a well of financial support for the institution. Can you sort of elaborate on it a little bit? I know I've sort of prejudiced the comment with a previous interview that we've done where I know more about the success of it, but if you can elaborate on that and talk about the installation and protection that it gives, I appreciate it.
Let me do that. Thank you for asking that question. First of all, many of us who are on this live stream are college graduates. Some are PhDs. They have master's degrees. They have financial educations in specific areas of finance. But the truth be known, they never or got an education in finance. And the reason I say that, because if they had, gold would have been propagated years ago. That gold was real money. Uh, Let me rewind and say this: our church now, uh, even in this pandemic, because we have a gold savings account, and because we save gold each month, we will never miss a beat as it relates to leveraging our own money. Now, let me go back to the education piece. Thank God for Wealth Builders Worldwide University. Uh, I thank God for Mr. Ty Best and his wife, Valerie Best, and all the leaders, yourself included, Brother Eric, uh, Mr. Mike Delco and his wife, and other just extraordinary leaders in Wealth Builders Worldwide University that teach people every single day, 2 and 3 times a day, how to leverage their money with gold, real money. And I tag it Wealth Builders Worldwide University because we did not get the kind of education that we get with Wealth Builders Worldwide in a college. They don't teach it. So therefore, particularly in the African American community, we know very little about money and how to leverage our money. We're consumers for the most part and not savers. We are spenders and not wealth builders. But Wealth Builders Worldwide University, Brother Eric, teaches us how to leverage our own money with real money, go and build wealth. So the education that our trustee board has received has been something that they didn't know about, but now, thank God, they do. And we're about, my wife and I, Lady Sutton and I, about sharing this information with everyone, but we're particularly passionate about sharing this information with church leaders. Because in the new normal that we're in, there may be some exceptions, but in this new normal, because we don't go to the church houses now, churches' finances are going to be adversely impacted. But there is a solution to that, church leaders, pastors, ministers, bishops, imams. There's a solution. And that solution is Wealth Builders Worldwide and Carrot Bars International. We have a system within a system that can extricate and liberate our churches and other institutions and our families from this pandemic as it relates to finances.
Well, that is very clear because truthfully, family, there are many of you on this line who are watching this presentation who have daycare centers, who have private schools. You have businesses that do not qualify for the handouts. When I say handouts, I'm using that figuratively speaking, but the stimuluses that the government has doled out to tens of thousands of businesses around the country. You don't qualify for them. And even if you do, the delay in getting them are so intense now. Even the ones they just recently rolled out, they just started to roll it back saying we don't have it. People are now facing delays with their tax return monies and things of that nature because of the overwhelming printing of paper and the need for financial relief. And so I'm talking and looking at our private schools in our communities, Black communities. I'm looking at the private healthcare sectors in our communities. I'm looking at the nursing homes in our communities. I'm looking at all of these entities of need, institutions that are now suffering because you can't open your doors. And if you do open your doors, people are afraid to come because they know inherently that this pandemic is nowhere near that flattened curve. If anything, it's producing flat lines. You know, people need to be reassured before they can re-engage. And with the change of times and the demographics that are taking place currently, many of these institutions won't come back in the same way. Schools are being made to now adapt to online education, something that wasn't on their radar screen, you know, and they had to close their schools and then they had to close schools and then still had to find money to operate in the next month, let alone the next semester or the following year. The private institutions are suffering, okay? Our daycare centers are suffering. Then the state wants to open up normalcy, so they'll allow you to get your barbershops open and your hair salons open, but now they've just been diagnosed in reports that these were the #1 spreaders of the coronavirus because of the unsanitized dynamic in terms of the constant touching and hands going from one thing to the other. So these businesses are suffering. They do not deserve to suffer. You see, this is the point. You know, while they're trying to get a grasp on this, people still have to maintain their lives. People still have to maintain the integrity of the institution took decades to build. There are businesses out here right now, institutions who were bequeathed by their parents and their parents, hundreds of years of daycare, hundreds of years of schools, hundreds of years of church, and they're all impacted. Do they deserve?
Brother Eric.
Sir.
Brother Eric.
Yes, sir.
I want to put something out here. You have so eloquently laid out things that we must consider if we are to survive in this new normal. And the question is, how do we handle this new freedom or new normal?
Wow.
I think it would serve us well for us to continue to dialogue about that question. How do we handle it? How do we handle it as a church? How do we handle it as private business? How do we handle it with the daycare centers? How do we handle it in very and myriad other entities within our community? Because the question is still prevalent. How we have to have, in my judgment, a continuous dialogue and help people to understand how we navigate this new system. In the churches, what we have done over the last 6 weeks, Brother Eric, is our church have had church at home, and it has forced us to be creative. And in the creativity, I talked to my wife last night over the past 6 weeks, doing those live streams on Saturday or Sabbath morning. Mm-hmm. We have reached over 15,000 people in 6 weeks. Now, in the traditional church, as we went, we wouldn't have 15,000 people to hone into our service in 20 years.
Think about that.
But now, because we have had to adapt to this new normal, it has forced us to look at how we've had church and what issues have we dealt with in the ministry, and how we've touched people. We've touched people that would never crack our traditional church doors, but because of the challenge of the new normal, we're reaching thousands of people across the globe and giving them good news, which is the word of God. So I think there needs to be a broad discussion deliberately directed at how do we embrace and how do we handle this new normal? Back to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I'd like to make an appeal to you right now, Bishop, as we're on the line. You know that every morning, Monday through Saturday, from at 8 a.m. Eastern, we do a class in session on my Facebook page. And I would like for us to delve into offering this opportunity to address the how-to tomorrow morning, if you have availability. And then we target a couple of days in the week, Monday through Saturday, on the PM side of it, in our Quarantine Life series here that we're doing on YouTube, where we can partner and offer those solutions and bring those entities together to build upon how to. And if you're open for any of that, I would like to schedule it, work it out, and then put it out there so people know that we are a resource to come to for those varying reasons.
Brother Eric, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'd add one caveat, and that is that on the different live stream that we select, certain leaders, particularly those leaders that's in wealth builders, to be panelists, to discuss different areas of the how-to we handle. For instance, the church. How do we handle small business? How do we handle just family relationships? How do we? I love to sit down and strategize about how we lay that out and how we make it more effective and get the leaders. And we have some dynamic leaders all over the country, but particularly in wealth builders that are versed in helping us to do a think tank to share with people on the how do we handle or how do we navigate the new normal.
Absolutely. Consider it done. We will get together on this post haste. Family, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity for allowing us to share in this Quarantine Life segment that comes every Monday through Saturday on the Eric Ture Muhammad YouTube channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. And they remain on the channel so you can go back and review at your leisure. You can also add comments. You can also do live chats. I'm back tomorrow evening, God willing. And then, of course, on the Eric Ture Muhammad Facebook page, you can find us in the morning at 8 a.m. for the class and session that we do there. Bishop, you have any closing comments you'd like to add?
I'd just like to add that we are praying for our community across the globe, that God would give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and that we use this new normal as an opportunity, and not just a downer. The scripture lets us know that we should give thanks in all things, and it takes faith to do that. But I believe that the scripture says faith comes by hearing. And I think this new platform, Brother Eric, that you've embraced will help us to increase people's faith and give them hope. So I just thank you again for allowing me to be on this live stream with you. I am extremely honored, and I'm thankful for my Wealth Builders Worldwide University family, because they are changing the world 1 gram of gold at a time. And I'm reminded that gold is really God's money. It's mentioned in the scripture 422 times. And they would not have brought Jesus gold and silver when he was born if it did not represent value. So Brother Eric, thank you again for all you do with Kafani Radio and all you do for people across the globe.
Thank you, Bishop. We're going to close out this session. We thank you, family. We're going to close it out with a message from T.D. Jakes on courage, Bishop Jakes. And it's going to take courage to be awake and aware to strategize and implement in this new hour, in this new normal, as Bishop Sutton said. Bishop, again, thank you. Please give the First Lady and the rest of the family there our love and greetings. And we will see all of us tomorrow. Peace and power.
Thank you, sir.
You got to have the courage. Do you have the courage to act outwardly on what you see inwardly? Or will you die a dreamer? Will you die on the verge and on the edge and in the land of coulda, woulda, and shoulda? have the courage, I'm going to drop something on you. It takes courage to be successful. It is far easier not to be successful. Misery will always have company. Success breeds contempt. If you don't want to make waves, be mediocre. Be normal and fit in. And if you're more concerned about people than you are God, then neutralize everything he put in you. Just fit in with everybody else. Dress like them, walk like them, act like them, eat like them, go where they go, think like they think, do what they do. And once you've neutralized your uniqueness, you don't need courage. It takes courage to be different. It takes courage to go where you've never gone before. For some of you, it took courage to come to this conference. It takes courage to get you outside of the box. It takes courage to be successful. It takes courage to win. People don't talk about people that don't win. If you win, they're going to talk about you. Do you have the courage to stand there though the storms keep raging and the people get to talking and you stand there and say, I've come too far to turn around? Do you have the courage? I'm going to say something to you. It takes courage to be exceptional. It takes courage to be wise. It takes courage to be rich. It takes courage to be educated. It takes courage to be knowledgeable. Because the moment you do, you don't talk like, oh, you forgot where you came from. Look at you, it takes courage. And I'm just wondering, in this weak, watered down, mediocre society that we live in today, in this reality TV world we live in today, I'm wondering if there's anybody left that's got the courage to say, after all I've been through, and all my ancestors have been through, and all my parents have been through, I didn't come through all of that just to fit in with normalcy. I have the courage to go after my dream. Is there a woman left in this entire